Hey there everybody, Nathan Elson here, and welcome back to the channel. Now I know it's been a hot minute since I've done one of these videos for you guys, so I'm going to try to make that up today by giving you a 2-for-1, a twofer, if you will, where I'm going to show you guys how to take the same style of lighting and create images that are substantially different from one another without having to move too many things around. So with that being said, these are the type of images that we're going to create today. Let's just get into it. So here we are in the studio, and I've got the lovely Jordan as my model and Alicia running point on hair and makeup. Now the first thing that we're doing here is we're actually just reviewing some of the first images that we shot from the shoot. And this is just something that I like to do whenever I'm starting, a new session, if you will, where we'll take probably 20 different images and then we'll just kind of come back and review. And it just gives us a really good idea to see what the light is doing, see what poses are working, see what works with the clothing, hair and makeup, if there's anything that we need to change. And it just allows us to move forward from that point. Now, I often go into a shoot with a really rough idea of what it is that I'm looking for. I don't have anything exact. And so I like to kind of go with the process. And doing it this way where I can review some of the images, then come back with the hair and makeup with the model, we can kind of review everything over and move from there. It allows for a great collaboration in order to create the final images that we're all super happy with. So with that being said, I'm gonna walk you guys through the setup here in the studio and just kind of give you a rundown of the equipment that I'm using. Now for the gear, I'm using 3 8600 Pro heads. Now my key light is a white Profoto large deep umbrella. Then for my fill light, I've got 2 Profoto medium deep white umbrellas that are firing through a 12x12 shoot through scrim. Now all this scrim is doing is broadening my fill light to give me a really nice transition from light to shadow, but I'll get into that in just a little bit. Now the last modifier I'm using is a foldable V-flat from V-Flat World, which I'm using just to add a little bit of light back into the dark side of the model. It's giving me that little hint of rim light that you can see in the final images and just helping to fill in a little bit of that shadow detail. Now for my camera, I'm shooting on my Nikon Z6 Mark II with the Nikon 85mm Z mount lens, and it's tethered into Capture One Pro. Now when it comes to the positioning of the key light, you can see how the key light is positioned to feather across the model. So what that means is I'm placing the model in the back half of the modifier and allowing that light to slowly kind of transition across them using the other half of the modifier just to feather that light. It just gives you a really nice transition from light to shadow. Now coming back to my fill light, I'm using 2 lights shooting through a large scrim. Now the lights are already bouncing light and then they're going through another layer of diffusion. It's just giving me a really super soft fill light. And all it's really doing is creating a window light effect if you were to have an overcast day or light that was being bounced indirectly back in through a window. And it's just a really pretty style of light. Now for these looks, I wanted them to be not super contrasty. I didn't want the background to be falling off very dark. So if I'm shooting this style of lighting, typically what I do with my fill light is I'll meter it to about 1 stop below whatever my key light is. So if my key light is metered to f8 at ISO 100 at 1/200th of a second, then I'll meter my fill light to come in at f5.6 at ISO 100 at 1/200th of a second. And that's what allows me to keep that separation between the model and the backdrop, but without it falling too dark and feeling that really dark grayish feel. This is really kind of like light and airy, and I still keep that shape of my key light, which gives me that drama in the face and all the shadow detail that I love. But it brings out the details in the backdrop to create a really smooth transition of light, which I've really gravitated towards lately. I find it just very clean and very appealing. All right, so now we're heading into look number 2. And there isn't a whole lot that changed with this, but there are a few different things that really change the outlook of the final image, even though we're not changing the lighting all of that much. Now, as you can see, I'm still using the same key light and fill lights in the original set of images, but the placement of the key light in respect to my shooting angle has changed, as well as the removal of the V-flat and the addition of an on-axis fill, which I will talk about shortly. Now from this angle, you can see that the key light is positioned slightly behind the model, an angle to wrap around her face and body to create a lot of shape and shadow. I wanted something with a little bit more mood to it, and this form of lighting your subject is just a great way to accomplish that. Now you see this type of lighting a lot of the times in movies and different things like that, where a lot of the light is coming from behind. And that's because it does create just a lot of interesting shape and shadow on your subjects, on their face, on their clothes, everything. It just really makes things pop. So it's a style of light that I actually very much I love it. I just find it to be very interesting light. Now from a framing perspective, I'm also shooting into a couple of fake standing walls, as well as using only the edge of my backdrop just to create a little bit more depth in the image. This is really just a personal aesthetic that I've really come to enjoy. I like incorporating the environments, even if it's just my studio, into the shoot, just to kind of tie in that sort of like commercial feel with a little bit of that behind the scenes type of action to it. I don't know, I find, again, it just creates a little bit more interest in my images. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, the word interest is something that gets thrown around a lot. I just want to create something that's interesting. And I find incorporating just these little hints of the stand, of, you know, parts of the brick wall, all the, you know, the dirty floor, everything like that. It creates just a little bit more depth in the images that I just love. That's the only way that I can put it. Now, outside of moving my key light, I've also replaced my fill. So I took out that V-flat and I added in another 8600 with a large umbrella with a diffusion panel attached. Now this is acting as an on-axis fill. So what that means is it's light coming from, you know, almost the same direction of my camera that's just adding a little bit of detail back into the shadow areas that would otherwise fall, I feel, just a little bit too dark. Even though I want those areas to be in shadow and darker and moody, I don't want to lose the detail. I want to be able to pull some of that shadow detail back into the image so that we're not losing facial features, that kind of thing. So typically what I do with this fill light is I'll usually have it about 2 to 3 stops lower than my key. So again, if I was shooting this at, say, f5.6, my fill light would be running somewhere around f1.4 to f2. Just something, you know, just popping in just a little bit of light into there just to create just enough there that you can still see the detail in the subject without losing the shaping of the light. And that's a huge thing when it comes to fill, is just you can use it very minutely just to enhance your image a little bit. It doesn't have to be something that is very, you know, substantial in your images. Just a little pop of light, just a little, and you know, it can go a really long way. And there you guys have it. Another one in the bag. It feels good to be back. It feels good to be just, you know, making stuff and putting together videos and hopefully giving you guys some ideas and maybe inspiring a couple of things, and, you know, just kind of being back in front of this. I don't know. It's been a minute. I always say expect to see more of me very soon, but I can legitimately say at this point in my life, definitely expect to see more of this very soon. I've got more coming down the pipe. I've got lots kind of like, you know, in the barrel, in the chamber, just ready to be put together and delivered to you guys. So there's definitely more behind the scenes coming in the near future. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, use the comments box down below. That's what it's there for. I appreciate you guys being here, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Cheers.